to leave you in good hands. This is a person who got a PhD at 23 years old. So I'm
22, in fact.
22. Wikipedia is already wrong. So thank you, Ben. I'm excited to hear what you have to say about SingularityNET, and enjoy.
Yeah, thanks a lot. So it's a pleasure to be here and talk a bit about what we have been doing at SingularityNET, working toward beneficial, decentralized, artificial general intelligence, and how that intersects with the Cardano platform. And there's way too much to say about this for a 30-minute talk. So you can look online at SingularityNET.io and find out a whole bunch more. But let me take you quickly through how I ended up here at a Cardano event. I mean, I'm a mathematics PhD originally, but even before I started undergraduate school, really, I knew building thinking machines was something I wanted to spend a lot of my life on. It just seemed obvious that, you know, as I.J. Good said in 1965, the first truly intelligent machine will be the last invention that humanity has to make. Like any other problem you can point at, if you had a machine like 10 or 100 times as smart as people, and it was well disposed toward people and other sentient beings, I mean, then you're solving that other problem better by building that thinking machine, right? So that seemed like clearly the most important thing to be working on. And you know, at that time in the 1970s and 80s, when I started to think about this, the technology was much less ready to really make like a frontal assault on the AGI problem. Now technology is advancing dramatically on multiple different fronts, and it's a more practical and less theoretical sort of endeavor. Now the way this got me into the blockchain space was really thinking about, you know, suppose you've solved the core algorithmic problems or the sort of meta-algorithmic problem of making an infrastructure in which the algorithms of general intelligence can emerge and crystallize. Like, suppose you've solved that, then how do you roll out this AGI upon the world? Like, how do you deploy it? Who controls it? Who owns it? How does it interface with the human world in which we live, right? And then ultimately, if an AGI becomes much smarter than people, it's going to figure all these things out for itself. But there's going to be a transitional phase when AIs are doing more and more smart things. Eventually, they start to have some real creativity and imagination. They're people's peers. They start doing more and more things that people can do. Then eventually, they're much smarter and more capable than people. And we're sort of like in the early, middle stages of this transition now, when you look at all the cool things AI can do already now. So during this transition, who's controlling and driving the process? And this is important in terms of how people are treated during this transitional process. While AIs are getting more and more advanced, it also is potentially important in terms of what's shaping the mind of the AGI as it emerges. And this is what led me to start building blockchain-ish stuff around 2000, 2001 when I first started in this space. And it's what led me to get really excited when Ethereum came out. And as messy and hacky as Solidity is, you know, that did give you the first sort of easy to play with way of creating decentralized software processes. It pulled me in 2016, 2017, when I started first screwing around with Ethereum. It pulled me into thinking, well, we can really build a decentralized, self-organizing platform for AI systems that are composed of multiple interacting agents that are controlled by everyone and no one, right? Because, you know, the internet is amazing in that way. It's controlled by everyone and no one, in spite of attempts of corporations and such to take it over. Linux operating system, amazing. It's the main OS underlying the internet, and it's, again, owned by everyone and no one. But to make an AGI that controls the intelligence the artificial intelligence on the planet, that guides the AI on the planet, to make that owned by everyone and no one, you need not just code and not just messaging protocols. You need like live operating systems in processor and in memory to be running in a way that's controlled by everyone and no one. And this is what led us to create SingularityNET. I mean, SingularityNET is a decentralized blockchain-based platform allowing multiple software agents running on multiple different machines to coordinate and work together to solve problems, where they can solve problems requested by outside consumers and customers. They can also outsource work to each other. They can join forces with each other to do things. And we've built this software platform over the years since 2017. And what we're doing now is building a bunch of different vertical market specific projects and networks on top of this decentralized AI platform, while at the same time beefing up the technology in various critical ways. So I'm going to run through some of the key elements of the SingularityNET ecosystem as it's developing now, sort of the things that various projects in SingularityNET ecosystem are doing aimed at using this decentralized AI platform to build specific applications, deploying decentralized AI for specific markets. And then in the last 12, 13 minutes or so of the talk, I'm going to talk specifically about a project named Hypercycle, which Tufi Saliba talked about a bit in the second talk this morning, which connects directly with Cardano. It's sort of about how do you make a sort of supercharged Cardano sidechain that really allows you to deploy massive scale decentralized AGI and applied narrow AI as a system of Plutus smart contracts. So what we see in this shiny slide here is just a bunch of projects being developed by folks in SingularityNET ecosystem that leverage SingularityNET AI to do various things. And I'm going to quickly run through a few of these in the next 5 or 7 minutes of this talk. It's not going to be enough to tell you really what any of these are about, but they all have their own websites and GitHubs and so forth, and you can dig into them as you wish. If we look at this sort of layered tech stack involved here, there's a SingularityNET platform, which is a sort of decentralized agent system, which uses a blockchain to allow a network of AI agents to coordinate in a decentralized manner with no centralized owner or controller. Underneath that, we've historically had the Ethereum platform. We're in the midst of porting that to Cardano. We've done part of it. We need more of Hydra to be released in order to complete the port of SingularityNET onto Cardano. Now, at the layer underneath that, we have NewNet, which was spun out from SingularityNET a while ago, and the CEO of NewNet, Kabir Vetas, is here at the event, and we have a booth on NewNet over in the exhibition hall. NewNet provides a decentralized ecosystem for compute resources, processing resources, other sorts of resources on which the SingularityNET agents run. Simula, I'm not going to talk about much, but a project run by Rachel St. Clair, a good friend of mine in Florida, which is building customized hardware, customized chips to accelerate these processes. And then Hypercycle, as I already alluded to, as a custom Cardano sidechain aimed at accelerating these decentralized AI processes. And we have something called Hyperon, which is a new version of the OpenCog AGI system, which provides a sort of neural symbolic AI toolkit that can be used by any project in any vertical market. Then on top of all this sort of high-grade decentralized AI plumbing, right? What we have are projects aiming to apply these tools in areas from DeFi to virtual world to music to healthcare to enterprise software. And I'm going to briefly just point you in the direction of a few of these projects. So TrueAGI is deploying OpenCog Hyperon-based AGI technology for the enterprise. And it can do both centralized and decentralized deployments. This is way too much to go into in just a few seconds here, but what we're building in OpenCog Hyperon is a novel approach to general intelligence that's quite different from the deep neural nets that have become somewhat dominant in commercial AI today. So we have a distributed knowledge metagraph, which is sort of generalized graph knowledge model. We have neural nets, we have evolutionary programming and genetic algorithms, we have probabilistic logical reasoning algorithms on a variety of different uncertain logics, including intuitionistic, paraconsistent logic, higher order probabilities and such. We have all these different AI algorithms cooperating together and dynamically updating this large knowledge metagraph. And if you're into AI theory, look on ArcSci for a paper I wrote a couple years ago called The General Theory of General Intelligence, which sort of digs into the math of how you unify all these different AI algorithms into a common software framework for updating a common distributed knowledge graph. Now what the company TrueAGI is doing is deploying OpenCog Hyperon on top of our decentralized AI framework to meet the AI needs of users across different vertical markets. So that's TrueAGI.ai. You can look that up. Now, Rejuve, as the next in my list, is deploying all this stuff for a particular applied problem that is of acute interest to me as a human being who is getting on in years. So if we can use this decentralized AI to abolish human disease and aging, this will be highly desirable, right? And one aspect here is gathering data. So we have the Rejuve app now in beta to be launched 1.0 version, I think in December or January. And this lets you just contribute data from your medical records, from your Apple Watch or Fitbit, data from your body into a secure decentralized knowledge store so that AI can crunch it to learn more and more about how to cure aging and disease. To complement this human data, we have a partnership with Genetic Incorporation. We have here fruit flies that have been evolved over 40 years to live 5 or 8 times as long as normal fruit flies. We're using decentralized AI on SingularityNET platform to analyze the DNA and RNA of these long-lived fruit flies to figure out why they live so long. And so putting that together with data from humans as ingested through the Rejuve app. And this, I mean, we're not the first to be applying AI to longevity genomics. I was almost the first when I started doing it in 2001. Now there's more and more doing that. But this is being done within the proprietary data silos of pharmaceutical companies. We're trying to do it in the open so that if there's a financial or medical benefit from all this research, it goes back to the people whose data helped contribute to discovering these therapies. We haven't yet figured out how to give reward to the fruit flies whose data helped result, but we're actually working on that, right? In the shifting gears from fruit flies and humans to robots, we've been using SingularityNET AI for a while behind this Sophia robot from Hanson Robotics, and also Sophia's younger sister Grace, who's in the healthcare space. Now, if you look at Sophiaverse website online, you'll find some really amazing graphics that I think didn't make it into this presentation somehow. But if you look at Sophiaverse, you can find some amazing, beautiful visuals from the metaverse that David Hanson, the creator of Sophia, is designing for Sophia avatars to romp and play in. So I think the Sophiaverse can be the sort of shard of the metaverse in which AI for the metaverse really comes to play in the form of avatar versions of the Sophia robot. The Grace robot deploys similar AI, not for entertainment, but for a different purpose. It deploys similar AI for elder care and for medical robotics. And oh yeah, we do have a picture of Sophia. So we have the Sophiaverse futuristic metaverse here with cool avatars romping around controlled by AI, fun to play with, but also each interaction you have with this Sophia and other avatars in the Sophiaverse metaverse, each interaction you have helps teach the AI and helps it get smarter and smarter. Twin protocol adds on to this by allowing you to train an AI avatar to be a digital twin of yourself. I mean, at first these won't really be as smart as you are, although they may be more entertaining than you, depending how entertaining you are. But as you feed more and more of your AI to fuel the evolution of the digital twin, eventually you'll be able to train something to carry out more and more of the practical tasks that you need to carry out, where people won't even always know whether they're interacting with you or your digital twin. Then eventually, when you don't know whether you are yourself or you are your digital twin, then we've really gotten there. And Sophia also has another little sister who is named Desdemona, and you saw her out in the exhibition floor. You'll see her tonight if you stick around at 9 or 9:15. We've got the Jam Galaxy Band with myself on keyboards, a bunch of much more awesome musicians, and the Desdemona robot on lead vocals. But Desdemona is not only leading the band, but she's serving as a sort of experimenting ground for all sorts of different AI and tokenomic investigations in the music business. And if you look at jamgalaxy.com, you'll see a very well fleshed out token model for allowing musicians to monetize their followings and their fan bases, and sort of getting over the rut the music industry has gotten into, where the streaming services are taking all the money, and musicians have no way to benefit financially and pay their rent, even though loads of people are listening to their music. So Jam Galaxy is a decentralized AI-based token model for the music industry, and we're testing that out on our own band, the Jam Galaxy Band, led by the Desdemona robot, who you can see a little later tonight. So I'm running short on time. I'm going to zip through these last things, but that doesn't mean that they're not important. So DeFi obviously has been the main use case of blockchain in the last year or so, and Singularity DAO, the first SingularityNET spinoff to sort of go off on its own, and we have the Singularity DAO CEO, Marcello Mari here, who I think is going to be speaking soon. So Singularity DAO has been using SingularityNET-based machine learning and reinforcement learning to trade baskets of altcoins and derivatives and other assets. So that's one important thing. Cogito is another SingularityNET project that's using our AI to create whole new kinds of assets. So, I mean, the crypto space has a lot of things going for it, but from a pure financial standpoint, if you just look at the assets being created, Bitcoin and Ethereum, AGIX, ADA even, have been very, very, very volatile. The best way the crypto world has come up with to make a more stable asset has been stablecoins, which just copy fiat, right? But this is very lame. The whole idea is to get beyond fiat. If the only way we can get to make something that's not insanely volatile is to pin stuff to fiat, then we're really not thinking creatively enough. So in Cogito, we're introducing a new financial instrument called tracer coins that are different than stablecoins and also different from highly volatile cryptocurrencies. The magic here is we create synthetic indexes and then pin something to the synthetic index instead of to fiat. So you can create a synthetic index which measures humanity's progress toward improving the environment and solving the climate crisis, which is a very, very stable and slow thing. It's bad, but it is very stable and slow, right? And you can also make a synthetic index measuring progress toward the technological singularity, how fast your computer's getting, how small are the smallest motors getting, how much energy does it take to sequence DNA. Make a synthetic index of exponentially increasing progress toward the singularity, pin a token to that. So you can use the same sorts of mechanisms underlying stablecoins to create a token that's pinned to a synthetic index measuring environmental or technological progress. Suddenly, you're tracing a different sort of progress. You have a whole new class of asset, right? And this is something that honestly should have been done a long time ago. But we have the G coin and the X coin then pinned to green progress or technological progress, and these use SingularityNET based AI to improve the stabilization. So we're not doing a pure algorithmic coin. This is not Ponzi-nomics, but we're doing a fractional reserve coin, more like fracks, let's say, but pinned to different things besides US dollar, right? And Mindplex, check out mindplex.ai, which will be online soon. It's an AI guided and curated futurist magazine and media site running on SingularityNET AI. And now, for the last bit of my talk, I want to talk a little bit about Hypercycle, which is not building on top of the SingularityNET decentralized AI platform, but rather is building in a way underneath Cardano, which is underneath SingularityNET, at least in the new Cardano port. And the notion of Hypercycle is we want to refactor the way blockchain works so that it's much faster and much cheaper, but still very secure. And the trick to doing this is that we're introducing a whole bunch of prior work from the Toda blockchain created by Tufi Saliba, who talked this morning, and Dan Tolliver. In Hypercycle, first of all, we get rid of the ledger. So you don't have a replicated ledger, you don't have a sharded ledger, you just don't have a ledger. And if you get rid of the ledger, you can do things much more efficiently, because replicating, like keeping copies of this database all over the place, is just plain extremely inefficient. So you still have Merkle trees, you still have hashing. It's just each participant in the network sort of has Merkle trees recording their own transaction history. The transaction history is some of their neighbors and their neighbors' neighbors. So you've sharded all the way down, and you can do everything you need for a blockchain. You can do consensus. You have secure messaging. You can do everything this way without a ledger. Tufi and Dan were doing this in Toda for some time. My unique contribution there is I've realized you can simplify some of the consensus mechanisms of this ledgerless blockchain by sort of proof of authority, proof of reputation type methods. So that Hypercycle is a sort of version of the Toda ledgerless blockchain where the consensus is expanded to include some proof of reputation based on SingularityNet's reputation system. And we're then introducing a bunch of other cool things from OpenCog Hyperon project. So I've figured out in a way how to run Plutus on top of this ledgerless infrastructure, and then how to run OpenCog's AI scripting languages as plugins to Plutus. And the final ingredient here is some fundamentally more efficient ways to run smart contracts. And I want to invite Greg Colvin, who's one of our collaborators for the last 5 minutes of my time up here, to chat a bit about a particular ingredient of Hypercycle, which is on this list here. You see, radically optimized smart contract execution. So Greg has been very active in the Ethereum world for some time and put a bunch of work into the recent Ethereum merge, which was fantastic. And
I ignored the merge.
You ignored the merge?
Yeah, I actually prefer proof of work. But
you prefer proof of work?
That's a whole other different conversation.
But you put a lot of work in on Ethereum.
Mostly the EVM.
The EVM, all right. Yeah. So yeah, Greg and Tufi and Dan and I have been talking recently a bunch about how to make it so smart contract execution is not so insanely slow. Like the way it works now on most chains, you run a smart contract, you run it everywhere on every node in the chain. So if there's 10,000 nodes, it's going to be 10,000 times slower than running the code on one node. What if you could just run the smart contract on a handful of nodes and get all the security that 3 nodes? So yeah, Greg, you can briefly talk over why and how that's possible.
Yeah, of course. As you said, thousands, millions of nodes. This is way too slow. The only other way we've had to do it so far is ZK Voodoo, where you pass the program off, you run the program, and you hand back a proof that you ran it right. And doing those proofs is really hard. Tufi, a little while ago, got really excited. It's like, I'm going to blow your mind. I'm going to blow your mind. So, and the basic idea is simply that, say you had 3 machines not colluding with each other. you both gave them the same input, and they came back with the same output. You only need hashes. If they're all the same, I think as you put it, heat death of the universe probability that they ran the program correctly. And I'm going back, well, if they're not colluding, and that's a problem we've been solving, and that'll be the next stage when we're ready to reveal it. And we don't yet know whether it'll be a brand new EVM. I'm going usually for low-level machine things, so you could build Plutus on it, you could build Solidity, or any other VM on top of that.
Yeah, so pretty much, I mean, instead of having every node in your network run the smart contract, use a cleverly designed pseudo-random function to pick a few nodes to run that smart contract and report back the answer. And you can use some tricks to slightly vary the problem that you feed to each of those nodes to greatly minimize the odds that they could collude to trick you somehow.
Yeah. Each of these 3 nodes actually gets a different program, and only a piece of the program is what you're interested in. But they don't know that, so they can collude as much as they want. It won't help.
So
smart contracts, why do we keep calling them that?
Well,
I mean, do the neurons in your brain run smart contracts?
Well, because eventually, once we've made the whole thing in AGI, they will be smart contracts.
They're not contracts.
Even if they're not now.
They're neurodes.
Well, yeah.
We'll argue about this later.
Yeah. So I think we're putting a bunch of pieces together to make Hypercycle work, starting with Total Ledgerless Blockchain, SingularityNET Reputation System to help with consensus, and then this new trick that Tufi, Dan, and Greg have been concocting to allow smart contracts to run with only a few nodes involved. Putting all these things together, we really will get a massively optimized infrastructure, and I think that's what you need to be able to run more atomic AI operations on chain, right? Because if you look how SingularityNET works now, each AI agent is pretty chunky. It's big, and the whole design principle was to minimize use of the blockchain because it's so fucking expensive and slow, right? So if you have a blockchain that is faster and cheaper by using these radical design changes, right, then you can scale down low-level AI operations and put them on chain, which means a single AI thought process could have portions that are owned by different people and that are all operating with multi-party computing and various security mechanisms.
Yeah, each TOTA file becomes alive, becomes an agent with history and intelligence, and they're operating independently, infinitely scalable.
So yeah, this, honestly, I had hoped to avoid getting into this when I started with Singularity in the blockchain space. Everyone's like, you have to build your own blockchain for SingularityNET. I'm like, no, I want to build a thinking machine, and I don't want to build my own operating system. I don't want to rebuild the internet. I don't want to rebuild the molecular structure of the universe. I want to work on AGI algorithms. But finally, once we start deploying things, we realize we just really need a radical level of acceleration, but then pulling in folks like Tufi, Dan, and Greg, we don't have to start from scratch because there's a bunch of other interesting ideas and code that we can pull in. And I think initially this will present itself as a Cardano sidechain, but it's also a sort of agnostic cross-chain solution because we can apply a lot of this to other VMs also and use it to sort of connect together AI sub-processes running on different chains.
Oh yeah. We don't care what chain it's on. We don't need no stinking blockchain. Thank you, Bill.
All right, I think that is all the time we got, so I will turn things over to who's next is Marcello, I think, right? So thanks a lot, everyone. And yeah, don't forget to show up to the after party to see the Desdemona robot leading our band, and we got some funky AI-generated art that'll appear on these big screens too. Should be a fun evening.